Many religions have their own rituals in order to communicate with gods and feel their presence. And almost all of them have their own interpretation of what life after death looks like. But how many religions can you think of that deal with actual zombies? Today on Scream to Screen, we're taking an in-depth look at the real-life story that inspired Wes Craven's The Serpent and the Rainbow. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe to Graveyard Shift and let us know in the comments which true-life horror stories you'd like for us to cover next. To best appreciate the origins of the Serpent and the Rainbow, it's important to understand the history of Vodou, or more specifically, Haitian Vodou, an African diasporic religion that combines traditional beliefs from West Africa and the Roman Catholic form of Christianity. Adherents are known in Haitian Creole as Sevits, or servants of the spirits, while the English refer to them as Vodouists. Vodou is organized through autonomous groups and has no central authority and control of the religion. Interestingly enough, Vodou has been characterized as both a polytheistic and monotheistic belief system, as it revolves around deities known as Loa, which derive their names and attributes from traditional West African divinities. The Loa are equated with Roman Catholic saints and divide up into different nations or nations like the Rada and Petois. However, they are regarded as subservient beings to a transcendent deity called Bon Dieu, who's believed to be a single supreme god and creator of the universe. Haitian Vodou developed among Afro-Haitian communities during the Atlantic slave trade between the 16th and 19th centuries. It arose through the blending of traditional religions brought to the island of Hispaniola by enslaved West Africans and the Roman Catholic teachings of French colonialists who controlled the island. Many Vodouists were involved in the Haitian Revolution, which overthrew the French colonial regime, abolished slavery, and established what is today's modern Haiti. Independence came at a terrible cost, as half the Haitian population was decimated in the violence. The revolution caused the Roman Catholic Church to leave Haiti for several decades, allowing Vodou to become the country's dominant religion. As is tradition, Vodouists meet in temples known as unfos to perform healing rituals and offer up fruit and sacrificed animals to the Loa. A central ritual to the religion includes drumming, singing, and dancing in an attempt to encourage a Loa to possess one of the participants in order to communicate with them. This person is called the choual, or horse, with the act of possession being referred to as mounting a horse. Vodouists believe that once the choual is under the trance of possession, a process called the crise de Loa, their consciousness is replaced by that of the Loa and will have no memory of the incident. Once in control, the Loa is free to communicate with the congregation, offering counsel or chastisement, blessings, warnings about the future, or even healing. This experience can last a few hours and, in some cases, several days. Healing plays a key role in Vodou. Priests and priestesses, or Ongan and Manbo, typically have a vast knowledge of plants and their healing powers, often prescribing baths involving various plant-based ingredients as part of the healing process. Haiti also has herb doctors who offer herbal remedies for different ailments. A Bòkò, on the other hand, is someone who seeks the help of the Loa in order to harm others. Bòkò deal in baka, or malevolent spirits sometimes contained in animal form, and are believed to work with Loa achete, meaning bought Loa, because the good Loa have rejected them as unworthy. In popular Haitian belief, the Bòkò engage in expeditions to set the dead against an individual in order to cause their illness or death. The curses of the Bòkò are believed to be countered by the actions of the Ungan or Manbo, who can revert the curse through an exorcism that incorporates invocations of protective Loa, massages, and baths. Zombies are the most sensationalized aspect of Haitian Vodou, with a popular belief being that a Bòkò can cause someone's death and then seize a part of their soul, called their ti bon ange, leaving the victim pliant and willing to obey the Bòkò's commands. Anthropologist Wade Davis argued that this belief was rooted in a real practice, where the Bizango secret society would use a concoction to render their victim into a state that resembled death. Once assumed dead, the Bizango would administer another drug to revive their victim, giving the impression of resurrection. Davis would further elaborate his claims in his 1985 novel, The Serpent and the Rainbow, a Harvard scientist's astonishing journey into the secret societies of Haitian voodoo, zombies, and magic. Wade Davis is a Canadian cultural anthropologist, ethnobotanist, author, and photographer whose work as a plant explorer took him all over the world, living among 15 indigenous groups. In 1983, Davis's study of ethnobotanical poisons took him to Haiti to investigate folk preparations implicated in the creation of zombies, where he discovered a reported case of a contemporary zombie, a man by the name of Clairvius Narcisse. Clairvius Narcisse was a Haitian native who claimed to have been turned into a zombie and forced to work as a slave. As the story goes, Narcisse, who was suffering from a fever and fatigue and was spitting up blood, admitted himself into a hospital in 1962, where he apparently died shortly thereafter and was buried on April 30th, 1962. Fast forward to 1980, when a man claiming to be Clairvius Narcisse approached his sister, Angelina Narcisse, and convinced her of his identity by using a childhood nickname and sharing intimate family details. He explained to her that years earlier, he had gotten into an argument with their brother, who then had Clairvius poisoned by a local shaman, using a concoction of mixed toxins from a toad and a pufferfish. The result put Clairvius in a zombie-like state and mimicked signs of actual death. The man alleged that he was conscious but paralyzed during his apparent demise and subsequent burial, and was later removed from his coffin by a Bòkò, possibly the same man who poisoned him. Clairvius was then given a paste possibly made from datura, a powerful hallucinogenic plant which can cause memory loss, and forced to work on a sugar plantation until his master's death 2 years later. After regular doses of the datura had ceased, Narcisse eventually regained his sanity and returned to his family 16 years later. Once Wade Davis arrived in Haiti to investigate this story, he concluded in his novel that the zombification process was the result of a complex interaction of tetrodotoxin, datura, and cultural beliefs. While Davis's findings sparked much criticism from the scientific community, it also loosely inspired Wes Craven's 8th film, The Serpent and the Rainbow, released just 3 years after the controversial book hit shelves. In Craven's interpretation, Dr. Dennis Allen, played by Hollywood's favorite president Bill Pullman and based on the actual Wade Davis, is asked by a pharmaceutical company to travel to Haiti and investigate the curious case of Christophe, the character inspired by Clairvius Narcisse. As Allen spends more time among the locals, he learns the terrifying reality of the Vodou rituals and is threatened by the Haitian paramilitary group Tonton Macoute and its nefarious leader, Captain Pétrade. After learning Pétrade's true intentions, Allen risks his life to defeat him and help the Haitian people overthrow their government. It's no accident that The Serpent and the Rainbow parallels much of Haiti's political climate at the time. In real life, Haiti had sparked an actual revolution against then-President Jean-Claude Duvalier, who took over as the nation's leader after his father, former President François Duvalier, died in 1971. Before his death, François Duvalier created a private militia called the Tonton Macoute, meaning boogeymen, because he didn't trust his own military. In 1964, Duvalier proclaimed himself president for life and violently suppressed an uprising against his rule, publicly executing the coup's ringleaders and killing hundreds of mixed-race citizens. Jean-Claude Duvalier continued his father's use of intimidation tactics and executions when he took over as president, although his power weakened as the country's economy steadily declined. Opposition to Duvalier's reign only grew more vocal, bolstered by a visit to the country by Pope John Paul II in 1983, who publicly lambasted the president. An estimated total of 40,000 to 60,000 Haitians were killed under the reign of the Duvaliers. But Jean-Claude Duvalier was eventually overthrown when he fled Haiti to France in 1986. The same year Duvalier was forced out of office, Wes Craven and producer David Ladd visited Haiti to scout locations. On one particular night, the two were dragged out of their rooms to join a ritualistic party where a live pig was slaughtered a mere 5 feet from Craven. The pig's blood was poured into buckets and passed around for everyone in attendance to drink. But the priest who was leading the ritual took mercy on Craven and Ladd and allowed them to get by without drinking any blood. They later learned how rare such mercy is in that setting and that the punishment for not drinking the pig's blood is said to be quite severe. Still, this experience only endeared the country to Craven more, and The Serpent and the Rainbow was set to film on location in Haiti for 30 days, starting in March of 1987. On the first day of filming, co-screenwriter Richard Maxwell had a mental breakdown after meeting with a witch doctor for research purposes. When Craven and another producer finally checked on Maxwell, they found him half-naked and completely disheveled, disoriented, and unable to write. He was put on the first flight off the island and didn't even recognize his own family when they met at the Miami airport. It took him days to snap out of his hysteria, and he retained no memory of the event. Maxwell wasn't the only member of production to experience hallucinations while on location. One crew member swore he interacted with a dead general who arrived on horseback, and even Bill Pullman claimed to have seen a green cow with television screens for eyes. Shortly thereafter, everyone other than Craven fell ill, and the crew began to speculate that their production was cursed by locals who sought punishment on those who weren't taking Vodou seriously. Although a more likely explanation could be the extreme heat and squalid conditions caused heat exhaustion and other ailments. A little over a week into production, the local extras Craven had hired kept asking for more money, threatening violence. At one point while filming, all of the extras went on strike and started throwing rocks at the entire company until producers negotiated a higher fee. At this point, the local government informed the cast and crew that they could no longer guarantee their safety due to the political strife and civil turmoil that was still occurring at the time. As a result, production packed up after just 11 of the 30 scheduled days and relocated to the Dominican Republic for the remainder of filming. While there may be a logical and scientific explanation for real-life zombies and Craven's crew suffering a group hysteria, it goes without saying that Vodou is not something to be taken lightly. Like all cultures, it deserves a level of respect, and those dedicating their lives to this belief should be treated with dignity. However, unlike most cultures, the consequences for disrespect can be dire. So what do you think? Are zombies for real? Could there be some truth behind the rituals? Or is the zombification process the mere result of a finely tuned concoction of hallucinogens and stress on the body? Leave a comment if you dare, and as always, check back next time to find out what else will make it from scream to screen.